नमस्ते प्रणाम गीता ध्यानम् ॐ पार्थाय प्रतिबोधितां भगवता नारायणेन स्वयं व्यासेन ग्रथितां पुराणमुनिना मध्ये महाभारतम् अद्वैतामृतवर्षिणीं भगवतीम् अष्टादशाध्यायिनीम् अम्ब त्वामनुसन्दधामि भगवद्गीते भवद्वेषिणीम् O Bhagavad Gita, with which Lord Narayana himself gave enlightenment to Arjuna. The ancient sage Vyasa included it in the Mahabharata. O goddess, showerer of the nectar-like knowledge of non-dualism contained in your 18 chapters. O my affectionate mother, the destroyer of rebirth, I meditate upon thee. Krishna Vandana. वसुदेवसुतं देवं कंसचाणूरमर्दनं देवकीं परमानन्दं कृष्णं वन्दे जगद्गुरुम्. Son of Vasudeva, the slayer of Kansa and Chanur, extreme delight for Mother Devaki, O Lord Krishna, the supreme teacher of the universe, my salutations to you. Let us see today what Sri Krishna has to tell us further regarding this desire, which envelops the true self, which envelops the self-knowledge, which envelops our ultimate intelligence. In this 39th shloka of the Karma Yoga of Srimad Bhagavad Gita, Sri Krishna says, आवृतं ज्ञानमेतेन ज्ञानिनो नित्यवैरिणा कामरूपेण कौन्तेय दुष्पुरेणानलेन च. Now Sri Krishna is addressing Arjuna as Kaunteya, O son of Kunti. He is telling him that this particular desire, the one which avrutam jnanam etena, avrutam enveloped. We have seen the previous shlok also how the smoke envelops the fire, how the dust envelops the mirror, how the worm envelops the embryo. Avrutam jnanam etena, by this jnanam, the wisdom, the intelligence, the knowledge is avrutam, enveloped. Jnanino nityavairina, the jnanam of the jnanina. Jnaninaha is of the wise. The wisdom of the wise is enveloped, covered by this which is nityavairina, of jnaninaha. This is the constant enemy of the wise, which is covering this knowledge, which is covering this intelligence, which is covering this self-knowledge. Kamarupena. Now what is this covering? Kamarupena, in the form of kama, in the form of desires. In the form of desires. Kaunteya dushpurena analena cha. This desire, Kamarupena, O Kaunteya, O son of Kunti, O my dear Arjuna, this in the form of desires is like Dushpurena. Dushpurena is unappeasable, unsatiable, you cannot satisfy them. Analena, by fire. Knowledge is covered, O son of Kunti, by this insatiable, unappeasable, unsatiable fire of desire. the constant foe of the wise. Again, Sri Krishna, again and again, he is telling about this desire. And this desire in the form of the covering on the knowledge is a constant enemy of the wise that keeps on bringing down a person and resulting in his or in her downfall. It is a constant enemy, the desire. So, desire grown to the stature of lust and greed is a destructive force and an enemy to all human beings. Now, there are so many desires, but basically, the destructive desires are lust and greed. If you analyze any of these desires, the desire for knowledge, is it bad? No. But the desire for a destructive knowledge is extremely bad. And why that desire for destructive knowledge comes into force? Either it comes into force, these are the only two motivating factors, lust and greed, that result in creating these desires, which in turn result in the downfall, in the self-destruction. The lust and greed. Sri Ramakrishna has always categorically spoken about these two culprits, which give rise to all the negative desires. Desire for earning money, for that matter, is not bad if you are using it for a charitable purpose. But hoarding, from hoarding point of view, it just brings down the downfall of a person. A person may create a huge amount of wealth by all the wrong means, for all the wrong purposes. But is he happy inside? No. Something is always pricking in his conscience. We may say that that man doesn't have conscience, but he has. And something will always be pricking. All these big, the people that we see who have created mess in our society, all these desires are born out of lust and greed. Nowadays, we see hoarding of all these life-saving drugs and antibiotics and all these things. What is this? The black marketing. This is nothing but desire which is born out of greed. And therefore, these two things, the lust and greed, they are the most destructive forces and an enemy to all beings. But the ignorant among them who come under its sway hold it as a helpful friend. Like the hoarders of the medicines, life-saving drugs, the antibiotics, and black marketeers, they consider these the dangerous desires not as enemy. They think it is their friend, because of which we are making so much money. One injection worth 300 we are selling for 20,000, 30,000. They feel it is their friend. Whenever a setback and humiliation ensue from it, the destructive force of desire is momentarily detested as a precarious factor in the makeup of man. So these are the dangerous forces, the lust and greed, the desire born out of lust and greed. And this in turn, as again Sri Krishna has told us in that 37th shloka, that kama esha krodha esha rajoguna samudbhavaha. This desire and the anger, it is born out of rajoguna, which is the deadliest of the enemies. That this feeling vanishes as quickly as it dawns. Both while under influence of desire and while holding it in abeyance, the wise man views it as his sworn enemy. The knower of the self, He knows that desire is my sworn enemy. I will never allow this desire to create havoc in my life. I will never have any desires. If at all a desire only for the lotus feet of my mother. So that is what Sri Krishna says, that desire in the form of this covering on the intelligence, covering on our knowledge. That is the deadliest of the thing. It is a constant foe for the wise. It is a constant enemy of the learned, of the knowers. In spite of him, it steals into his heart, assuming innumerable forms and trying to allure him. Even the wise man is not spared by these desires. From somewhere, this desire will just take shape in the mind of even a learned person at times. And therefore, we have the live examples of some of the greatest of the people falling down. Maybe they start, get up again. But even in the learned people, in the wise one, we see people have their downfall. Now, when this happens, for that Sri Ramakrishna has given this another beautiful example. Sri Ramakrishna says, the indicator in the balance moves away from the middle point when there is more weight on the one side. Now the balance is supposed to be in the middle of the balance. This is if the balance is properly balanced. Then the needle is very much in the middle. But when the weight is put in one pan, automatically the needle moves away from that pan. And Sri Ramakrishna says, the mind of man moves away from God, allured by weight of lust and greed. The moment the lust and greed, the desires for lust and greed, they get their place in this pan of mind, the needle of which is supposed to be in the middle of these two pans, it gets away from God. The desires for lust and gold, it takes the mind away from God. Like when we put a weight in pan, the needle goes away. The lust and greed, our mind's attunement towards God, it moves away, it goes away and start the destruction and starts the downfall. This is what Sri Krishna is cautioning us, that kama rupena, in the form of desires, this in the form of unsatiable fire of desires. Like the fire is never satiable. Till the time you are pouring ghee into fire, will it stop burning? No, it will be ablaze like that. The more you fulfill the desire, it just, the blaze of the fire just takes a bigger form. It starts glowing more rampantly. So therefore Krishna has said the desire is like the fire which can never be satiated, which can never be appeased. You can never, say that, okay, I have fulfilled this desire and I am now happy. Now no more desires for me. No. Desires remain insatiable. Desires remain unappeasable. We cannot fulfill a desire. They are never fulfilled. That's the biggest, the constant foe of the wise people, of the knowers. This desire. So we have to be absolutely careful about these desires. We have to be absolutely beware of these desires which are created from the lust and greed. That is Sri Krishna's teaching in this 39th shloka of Srimad Bhagavad Gita. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Sri Krishna Arpanamastu. Jai Sri Ramakrishna. Jai Thakur. Jai Ma. Jai Swamiji.